Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Today I have a very special guest. Specifically, today or recently, I don't know if it's today, yesterday, or what. Phil Donahue, that great host, progressive host that the women simply loved. He passed away at the early age of 88 years old. And as a member of the Peace and Justice Center, just recently, we had a mixer where we brought a whole lot of groups together. And Jimmy Dunne, who is here with us. Welcome to Politics and Right, Jimmy Dunne.
Hi, Egberto. Good to see you again.
Well, this Saturday we were talking, and just in passing, he was telling his story about being on the Phil Donohue Show, talking about education and corporal punishment, etc. And lo and behold, Phil Donahue dies. Want to talk a little bit about some memories here. First of all, Phil, tell us a little bit about you. Jimmy, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a retired middle school math teacher. I had a few other jobs too with state agencies like the Texas Employment Commission and the Texas Department of Health. But I've always been somewhat of an activist, and I was a teacher at Black Junior High School in 1961. We had corporal punishment then, and I did some of it myself. And then I started wondering, why are we doing this? And about 6 or 8 years later, when I was teaching at Lincoln Middle School, I formed this organization, People Opposed to Paddling Students or POPs. And that's why I got invited to be on the Phil Donohue Show and these other national TV shows like Good Morning America and the Shirley Show, even up in Toronto, and 3 more. But I've been working on this issue. And incidentally, the Texas legislature has never abolished corporal punishment. They just wouldn't do it. And so it's still legal in Texas, but the big cities have all banned it. And all those small towns sometimes show up with the paddle because they don't pay much attention to what the big city schools are doing. But it's clearly child abuse, at least big bruises on children's buttocks. And I have a lot of pictures of that parents have sent me. But it's gone now in 31 states and hopefully gone forever.
Now you're instrumental. How did they find you? Did you make the local paper and they picked it up, or what happened?
Yeah, I think when I formed the organization, People Opposed to Paddling Students, and also there was radio talk shows that I would call into and discuss it then. So I got picked up, and I was on quite a few local radio talk shows and local TV shows, and then the national shows also.
Okay, so then that's when they called you. Now, what was it like being on the? How did you find Phil Donahue when you spoke to him?
Well, I was on his show. They fly me up to these shows or wherever they are in New York or whatever, and put me on the air. And they had a couple of other guests there, and they discussed the issue. I don't remember too much about it, but then he also would get the audience to ask their questions too. And so he brought the audience in and he asked questions, and we just discussed the issue, for about an hour.
And did you have fun then, or did you find him to be that real exciting guy you normally saw on TV all the time?
Oh, yeah, it was very exciting. He had a most popular show on the air, I think, at that time. It was a daytime TV talk show, and he was a popular host, and he had all kinds of issues, and it was really watched by a lot of people, I think, especially women, according to what the New York Times said about it. So it was a very popular now.
Well, let me show the audience a picture of you with Donahue and some other guests on the show that day. Check this out, guys. This is Jimmy Dunne. Jimmy Dunne is still as handsome as he always been, isn't he? Oh yeah, but good. Hey, but first of all, it was great seeing you at the Houston Peace and Justice Center meetup, and like I said, it's amazing how this happened. May Phil Donahue rest in peace. But again, I found it that, we always talk about 6 degrees of separation, how close things are. Here it is that Phil Donahue dies. It turns out that just this weekend at an activist event, we were talking about you having your activist event to get rid of paddling, and he's in the news again. Let me see that paddle that you guys used to use.
Yeah, this is actually a former baseball bat that somebody made into a paddle. It was shaved down and put some tape around it, and it was a paddle. Now, I made this other one with our logo on it here.
Paddling is child abuse. I love that. Paddling is child abuse. And that was a paddle. That is what they did to your kids. And in Texas, it is still legal.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you something. You said that most of the big cities have outlawed paddling. But you said Texas's constitution, Texas's law did not. Does that mean that the local jurisdiction, would they supersede the state jurisdiction if a teacher paddled a student?
Yeah, it's apparently still legal in Texas because the Texas legislature has never passed a law banning it. So it's still legal. But in my eyes, it's child abuse. It's clearly child abuse. So I think if it goes on in a school, the police should go in there and arrest the paddlers and the principal who are allowing this to happen. You're hitting kids with boards that leave big bruises on their buttocks. So there's no doubt about it. There's child abuse, and child abuse is against the law. So they could just use that law to say, stop this, but they won't do it. If the school system feels like it's legal, the police won't go in there and touch it.
You know, you just made a lot of sense. I mean, paddling is child abuse. If a parent paddle a kid, they would probably be taken down for child abuse. And, you know, I mean, usually there's something good then, of me having you on today after the passing of our friend Phil Donahue, and that we get a chance to talk about right here in Texas, paddling is still legal. And I think you told me in several other states, paddling kids in schools are still legal.
Yeah, there's a state representative in Austin from Houston, a black lady who was a former teacher and a principal, I believe. And she's been on the legislature for quite a few years. And she's introduced bills at every session to abolish it. Her name doesn't come to me right now.
Right.
But she's still offering bills to abolish it, but they have never abolished it. And sometimes the Education Committee doesn't even bring it up for a hearing. So the chairman of the Education Committee has a lot to do with suppressing a law like this.
Well, Jimmy Dunne, look, it's been a pleasure having you on. Is there anything you want to say before we close this session?
Well, I want to encourage other people to be active on issues that they feel are important. Like I'm also interested now in reforming solitary confinement in Texas schools. We have people in solitary in Texas for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Dennis Hope was in solitary for 27 years.
I think you mean jail. I mean, prisons.
Yeah, well, solitary confinement in prison, yeah. And it's several Supreme Court justices have made statements about how solitary drives people crazy. You're locked up in a cell for 23 hours a day, nobody to talk to. It drives people nuts. So I urge more people, and especially our Texas legislature, to work on that issue and try to reform it and limit solitary confinement to about 15 days, which is what the UN recommends.
Jimmy Dunne, a corporal punishment activist, a prison reform activist, and an activist of every stripe, member of the Houston Peace and Justice Center. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Egberto, thanks for having me on, and keep up your good work on KPFT, discussing very important issues.
Thank you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.